All right, what up? What up? I want to welcome you all back to the Sox and Sandals podcast, where society, culture, history, and religion collide, and we unapologetically discuss our worldviews. It's your guy Emmanuel. I'm back in the building, whipping it up, and I have a very, very, very special guest with me today. He is a father, a husband, an organizer, an artist, activist, an actual person in the community, and the man that told you to shower daily and wash your hands. We have in our midst the good brother Mac Smiff. Mac, welcome to the pod, bro.
Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for having me out here. I really appreciate it.
No doubt, bro. So first things first, before we get started, salute to the plug, Miss Summer Martin. She's the one that kind of initiated this connection. Probably a conversation that's been long overdue, but here we are. And also, before we get started, before we go too far, I want you to just take a little bit of time to tell everyone a little bit more about yourself. So, just who you are, where you're from, and what's a typical day in the life of Mac Smith.
My name is Max Smith. I'm originally from New York, New York. I've been out here for 31 years, 30 years, right around there. Um, I am a utility company employee. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I run We Out Here magazine, which is an online blog that covers sports. Excuse me, local music, as well as local politics. Sometimes we dabble in sports and other stuff, as long as it's kind of Black and locally related. I throw the Thesis, which is a concert along with Verbs and Blake, um, and then just do a bunch of little stuff around the community.
Bunch of little stuff. So humble, so
Bunch of
humble,
little stuff.
man. Man, nah, bro, that's dope, man. Tell me about the Thesis, man. Is that running again, or is that about to start?
Yeah, all depends on Kate Brown.
Yeah,
Let us do.
yeah.
The Thesis started because there were issues in around 2015, actually, regarding police brutality at hip hop shows, not allowing us to have concerts, cutting back the capacity at different venues that allowed hip hop, things like that. So it
Mhm.
was kind of built as like an underground escape, where we threw hip hop shows, using very jazzy flyers and things like that, and kind of just I did a bunch of stuff. We did a party on the Portland Spirit. We rented out the Portland Architectural Building. We've done pop up shows in different places, and so over the last 6 years, it's kind of just been a staple in the hip hop community, as far as bringing in a place to constantly see artists every first Thursday, and we brought in artists, from out of town, and really just connected the scene, a lot in that way. And we changed the game really by doing like a smaller concerts. At the Thesis, there's no shows that have 10 to 12 acts on them. It's always like 3 or 4 acts at the most. You end out in 3 hours. It starts on time. It's inexpensive. It started as $5. Now it's $10. 6 years later. But the COVID really shut us down. COVID put us in a tight spot. So after April, we stopped having live shows. We just did a stream in April, and just to put up the videos from that.
Mhm.
So, but until we can get like a full, venue again at Kelly's Olympian or the places that we end up at, then we're kind of limited.
For sure, for sure. Well, hopefully, the governor comes to a consensus or just has has some type of solid, answer and option as far as like what we're gonna do moving
So,
forward. Because the back and forth is just it's wild, bro.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like a flip flop city. It's hard to get anything done, especially in the entertainment industry, if there's no consistency. So.
Yeah. And it's just weird. Like, so Oregon, of course, it has its own setup, but we're so close to Washington. And so you cross the bridge and it's a totally different world, totally different experience. Like if
Yeah.
everything is shut down, you can't go to, man, I want to go to a restaurant. I just want to sit down. I can just go over the bridge and I can do that. And it's like we're living in the same area, all the same people. Portland and Vancouver is closely tied, but for whatever reason, they're free to have a little hip hop concert or whatever, do whatever they want to do, sit down and have dinner, but we can't. It's just weird. It's so stupid, bro. But
A lot of it too is, they're just trying to kind of control our social patterns in that way. If
mm,
we're doing all this and getting up and about, then they have to like worry about they can't blame stuff on the protests or whatever and things like that. So there's like a lot of politics involved in all that as well. So
yeah,
I try to just stay out of it and just tell me when to go. Just tell me
for
when to go.
sure, for sure. Well, speaking of politics, somewhat, man, you have been doing. a lot of the right things for the right reasons, well before it became, popular, well before the slogans came out, um, well before a greater population of people, had that paradigm shift around policing and defunding the police, right? And so that's one of the reasons why, you got Twitter on fire, CNN knocking down your door, and other folks, you know what I'm saying? So just give us a little background about, the work that you've been doing activist wise, and just, yeah, just around the whole defund the police, how long have you been pressing that movement, and what's that been like for you over the past 4 or 5 years?
I think I've always been, without the slogan behind it, I've always been a person that believed that the police were getting too much money and
Yeah.
are wasting resources and are really hogging resources and oppressing communities instead of really serving them. So
Hmm.
that's been like since I was a child. I think I felt that way.
Yeah.
But as far as like pressing the line, it's really just kind of come over the last year. Like
Hmm.
honestly, it was just when the protests had just started, a kind of a kicking up. I
Hmm.
remember watching something on the news. I don't know if it was CNN or MSNBC or something, but Kamala Harris was like still running, as the VP, or she was actually just being like selected as the VP, to run or whatever.
Hmm.
And I remember her saying something about, people are talking about defund the police. And that was the first time I'd heard that phrase on
Hmm.
a television. Like
Yeah.
I've seen the phrase a million times, but like it was never like a catchphrase. And I was like, if there's enough talk about defunding that it can catch, it's catching the at the time she's a senator of California's ear,
Hmm.
like, and she's putting on like a national platform. I think that they just made a mistake. I think that they threw it out there thinking that people would be like, oh, that's cool. And I was like, yo, we're gonna hop on that.
Mm.
We're gonna keep on saying it. And so this was like in May of last year.
Mhm.
And I just started pushing on, defunding the police, and like right away, people started asking, well, how does that work? So fortunately for me, I've done like a lot of research in that regard, so I kind of had like the basic answers. But the real question was, how do we do it here?
Yeah.
How do we do it now? It's not 1970. It's not any other time that it's been brought up. It's like, how do we do it now? And so I started looking at the infrastructure of Portland. And fortunately, just for me, I had met Ted Wheeler several years ago. A couple times I had met Charlie Hales and Sam Adams as well, because whenever these protests and things get hot, I'm right in there. And I
And
always
for
have been.
for clarification, you can like tell everybody who those people are and why they're relevant to the story.
Oh, so yeah, so like Sam Adams is a former mayor. He was 2 terms ago, or
Mhm.
2 mayors ago,
Yeah.
and Charlie Hales is the mayor between him and Ted Wheeler, and Sam Adams actually works for Ted Wheeler now. He's kind of like his fixer
Oh.
in the office.
Mm.
Yeah, so but I had met all of them. Well, I had met Sam over some different stuff with the buses and TriMet stuff, but I actually ended up meeting Sam, or excuse me, Charlie Hales, as well as Ted Wheeler, just because of protests.
Mhm.
Whether it was Michael Brown or whatever it was at the time.
Yeah.
There's been so many shootings, like I don't even
It's
know
it's too
who.
many. Yeah, it's too
At
many
the
to
time, to be honest with you, there was,
yeah.
but I met Ted, and we had actually talked, me and Greg McKelvey and Alan Bell and Teresa before that.
Hmm.
But we met with him and talked about how the police department at that time, they were like way understaffed, like 111 officers understaffed, something like that, and the crime rate dropped dramatically. And we
Mm.
were like, "Yo," this was like in 2016, and we were like, "Yo, you need to not like. I know you're new and you came in on a. I'm going to reform the police. Like the best thing you could do right now is just not add a whole bunch more cops."
But before you go on with this story, let me butt in with this clip real quick.
But the people are leaning towards abolishing the police. Look at this shit. The people are saying we need to change something. I'm not saying you have to get rid of the cops tomorrow, but what I'm saying is you have to make a real commitment to cut this shit down. When I came and saw you 4 years ago in your office after you got elected, we talked about this and we talked about how crime was plummeting and you wanted to hire more cops. When you hired more cops and crime went back up. Is that correct? Okay. So that being said, when we talked about how come we can't get rid of the police and defund them more, your answer was there's a union contract. And it comes out every 4 years and it's signed before the election. So the outgoing mayor is always stuck with signing it, right? So you said you were hands tied. You couldn't do anything, but that you wanted to reform the police. But you were hands tied. Your hands are untied now because you guys just signed the contract for this 1 year, right? So now it's open in the next year. You got Sarah running and she's saying she's gonna work on these police. You're saying that you're gonna work on the police. You said that last time and you didn't. And you didn't fight to change the union contract. We fought to change the union contract. And that's an issue.
Well, this is the first union contract that I've negotiated as mayor of police.
The point is you did it in private. You didn't invite us out there.
No, in fact.
So that picks up exactly where you're talking about in your story. So 4 years ago, you had the conversation and he said he was going to try, his hands was tied. And now fast forward, that conversation was last year, right? That was last summer.
That's last year. That's like 10 months ago now.
Right. And so 10 months ago, he had that conversation. You all had that conversation.
Yeah.
What progress or what change has come since then? So
we stopped the budget from going up again, right? It was going to be like 255 million or something this year. Yeah. And it ended up being like 240 million, right? Which was like a couple million less than it was the prior year. Yeah. So there was, a bit of slowdown. The problem there is that we're already in a pandemic, so there's really no savings, and so the point of being able to invest that savings elsewhere isn't even there. Mm-hmm. In fact, the whole budget is taking a drop, and we're seeing like at least 5% cuts like across everything else, except the police. So, the hard part about it is that Ted Wheeler just nods his head and says, yes, I agree, I understand, you are correct. And then he just does the opposite thing. Yeah. You can't argue with that, and that's why you have people in the streets tearing stuff up, because they're like, you can do that to like oppress the people long enough, but like Portland's mostly white. So like you're lying to white people now. They ain't gonna keep taking that. They're not used to getting okey doked, like we get okey doked, we're like, okay, it's the okey doke. We know what it is. Let's just go ahead and get money, right? Yeah. But like white folks are like, he lied to me.
How dare he lie to me?
What? I watched him on video. He just told a lie. They're just like, what's going on? We have to revolt. Yeah. So like, fine, sure, go ahead and do that. It's just that's why people are angry here in Portland, because he just straight up lies. He's been lying for 5 years now.
But tell me about that meeting. Like you said, it was 2014, 2015.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Gregory McKelvey said Alan Bell. Salute to Alan and Teresa Rayford.
Yeah, so, Teresa wasn't in that meeting, but she was in the meeting that we had with Ted and with Charlie before that. So, but this meeting, Teresa didn't come to, I don't believe.
Okay, so I haven't been in like that necessarily, like that type of meeting or circle, but there's certain things that people are asking me to come, whether it's me facilitate or just sit in on, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like these talks with the community, and they want our input and they want our intellectual capital, but almost seems like you're just paid to waste my time and make me feel like I'm a part of this process. Like how did it come across, or what was the actual constructive effect of that meeting?
There was no effect of the meeting, and that's the whole thing. The whole point is to say, hey, we met with people in the community, and we heard their feedback, and we took that into account. And then they take some of the language that you use and they bastardize it, right? They switch it up and they use it. So it's like if I'm like, hey, defund the police, they're like, hey, we took $2 million off the budget. We defunded the police. And you're like, that's not what that's not what we talked about, dog.
And Mac agreed to it.
Right? Like I said this in public, and people hear me saying defund the police. So if you just go ahead and say, yeah, we did that, and you do something else, then it's like, yeah, that still works, because most people are stupid, right? So they just hear that and they just go with it, and that's what they always do. I've met with a lot of people this last year. And it's amazing how I'll say something, I'll see them like they're like, oh, he's right about that, and then I hear them say the same thing later, but it means something totally different.
Man,
cops will talk about mutual aid being a different agencies helping each other. Mm-hmm. It's like, take this language that sounds good and use it in ways for things that aren't good. and
Yeah,
it's just the rebranding of evil.
it's nasty, bro. Like the political system, it's like Mortal Kombat, or is it Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter or Shang Tsung, whatever he was in.
Mortal
Shang
Kombat.
Tsung will Mortal Kombat, bro. Like he will take your powers and then turn into you and beat you as you. Like, whoa, hold on, bro.
Right.
You took all my moves. Yeah, and you look like me too. Like, hold on, no, we not. So
Exactly.
it's wild the way that plays out. Now, as it pertains to policing in Portland, I think it's safe to say that Ted Wheeler has failed us, right? So we've had at least one black police chief. Has there been more than one, or in the past like 4 or 5 years?
We had Danielle Outlaw
Danielle
just a
Outlaw, I
few
remember
years
her.
ago.
Yeah,
She's out in Philly now.
Philly.
Where
Yeah,
they shoot everybody again. Or they shoot all the black folks again. So Danielle Outlaw is one of them. I think she also went to get the police training in Israel. So it is what it is.
yeah. Oh God.
You know
So
what it is. I mean,
so
what
we
are you
had
gonna
one
do?
black, we had one black police chief. That didn't
And
make
we had Moose before that, but I think that was like 10 years ago. That wasn't my
okay. Okay. We elected the first black woman to city council,
Yeah,
Joanne Hardesty.
yeah.
Y'all haven't checked that out, episode 58, Nothing About Us Without Us. Very great interview with Joanne. So we had that, but that hasn't that hasn't moved the needle enough to produce the outcomes that we need. She was framed not too long ago for a hit and run by the
Bro,
Portland police. Right?
I can't. I was
It's
like,
like you can't make this shit up. Like she was, they framed her. I don't even think she has a car, to be honest, bro.
listen, the head of the police union lost his job over that. What?
Like
To frame her
that's a
for
law
15
and
minutes?
order. Like, come on, bro. Who?
It wasn't even a good framing. It lasted like an hour and 15 minutes. It was
It was.
terrible. Like
It was.
you gotta do better than that. You can't just throw somebody under the bus at a fake hit and run. Come
But
on.
this is, I mean, this is what we're dealing with here in Portland.
Racism,
Basically,
straight
like
up.
this whole system is rotten, bro. Like, so in light of what we're dealing with, what's your current strategy to actualize the goal of defunding the Portland Police Bureau and creating a safer Portland, bro?
You know, it's a tough game.
Yeah.
We had a really good window last year.
Mm.
And I told people this: don't waste this. This is not a career path. This is this is a get it done moment, right?
Mm.
If we were going to invade the city hall or whatever and take it over, we should have done all that last year when we had thousands of people in the streets,
Mm.
when the tensions were as high as they could possibly be, when we had a Trump in office and everybody hated him. Everybody was unified on that front,
Mm.
and we should have got those votes to go and change the world.
Mm.
And we did not get those votes, and we didn't get the follow-up votes, and we didn't get the in the budgets switch in the fall. None of that stuff worked out. Joanne Hardesty, bless her heart, gave it a great effort, but unfortunately, a lot of this super radical stuff just waited until the last minute, and she couldn't garner enough support. I feel like the issue with a lot of things in politics is that it's really hard to ignite a base without like losing your funding or whatever. So the politics can only do so much. It's unfortunate. I think that was a really good opportunity right then. So now it's more a matter of playing the long game again and waiting for the next opportunity. In my mind, we have to educate, especially Black people. I still want to defund the police. That's still a major goal. I still think that's a single most effective thing we could do right now to free Black people. Is defund the police and stop Black people from being sent into slavery. It's essentially what's happening still.
Yeah.
So if we can defund the police, if we can choke the pipeline that sends us to prison all the time, and mostly just us all the time for the longest sentences, right? I think that's a huge knock on the system, and I think that's a huge way to keep us free. That's the big thing. Like people always saying, what would Harriet Tubman do? She would keep us out of prison. She would keep us out of slavery. She would escape us if she could. That would be the actual goal, is to free Black people. So to me, that's what Black liberation is about: is being free and being able to free others. So I think that to do that, we have to have actual education. We have to have people that are willing to teach each other. We have to have folks that can reach out in our communities when we're having this violence and things like this. People keep saying, let's put up billboards about, do you hate yourself or whatever? But like, I I assure you that the gangsters are not like riding by reading billboards going, you know what, this might be accurate. That's for the white folks. That's for white folks to be like, maybe it is black people's fault that they're in the ghetto. You know,
Yeah,
that's what that's really about. So
yeah,
it offends me and it bothers me, so I'm gonna say it. But
for sure.
you know, I think that the real work is connecting people who lived in that life, who survived in that life, who have had to make extreme sacrifices to get out of that life or to survive in that life. Talk to these youngins and to these folks that are out here shooting. A lot of them aren't even youngins. I mean, there's 30-year-olds getting shot and shooting out here. That's not really a child. You know what I mean? I'm 40. 30 is not a child. I was a grown man at 30 years old. I can tell you that.
Mhm.
And if you're out there shooting folks, that's what you're doing out there.
Yeah,
So, you know, we have to have folks that are reaching out to these people. You know, if you know the folks that are getting shot, then you probably know the folks that are you know, that are doing the shooting. And we can't just talk about it on Facebook. We have to, you know, call our homies and be like, yo, I know you're going through it right now. I know this happened to your guy, but you know, we can't go shooting up the hood.
yeah, yeah,
You know, then that's just what it is. It's a sad ordeal because I'll tell you what, if somebody shoots like, you know, one of my relatives, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like what's really gonna happen? Is somebody gonna be out here? I don't know. Am I
right.
gonna snap? Who knows? But like the whole thing is like that's where we have to have each other. That's why having a community is so important because like I remember last year someone shot like 130 shots in an apartment building. Like if we knew each other, that just couldn't happen.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? People just firing at cars into parties and random people getting hit. Like
yeah,
that wouldn't happen if we knew each other because you know you might know somebody at that party, bro. Like
right,
you
right.
can't just go firing into a random building, not like just I don't know anybody over here. That, like if that's happening, it's because we failed. You know what I mean? And I always keep telling people like these youngins. I'm like, you know, like we raised them.
Mm,
I have an 18-year-old and a 17-year-old boy. They're
mm,
black boys. They're black on both sides boys. They're not
mm,
mixed. Nothing. None of that. There's no accidents or mistaking it. They're black. You know,
mhm,
and
mhm,
they're out here. You know, and it's their friends getting shot.
mhm,
It's their friends that are dying. You know, my kids are 18 and 17 years old and their friends are dying.
mhm.
You know, so we have to do something about that. And we also have to, you know, make sure that it's us doing it. Because if it's not us, it's the cops and it's going to stick us in slavery.
Mm.
So it's like we really have to see like what does freedom look like, and we have to all understand what freedom looks like because a lot of us think that like freedom is like you know getting like $1 million and and moving to Beaverton. That's not like that's fine, you know, sure, go ahead and get your money. You're just sick of this. I get it. Like, I'm not knocking nobody's dreams, but is that really freedom?
Man,
You know?
it's it's beautiful that you said that because I was peeping the timeline and you did say freedom is more important to me than solidarity. If that wasn't clear, it is now. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
expound more on that freedom, that idea of freedom, especially being more important than solidarity, because solidarity is one of those buzzwords, one of those phrases that people throw out, and it means different things to different people, and it plays out in different ways and
yeah.
produces different outcomes. But freedom over solidarity, what is that? Break that down for us.
You know, I feel like freedom, you know, if the goal is liberation, right? Freedom,
Mhm.
that means that we have the ability to self-determine our futures.
Okay.
That's really what's about. It's not just like do whatever you want. That's not necessarily what a freedom is.
Mhm.
Freedom is more being able to determine what is it that you want to do. And what
Mhm.
that means is that I have a right as an individual or as a group or as a family or whatever to choose what is I want to do. And as Black people, we have, you know, we should have the freedom to choose how it is that we want to live and how we want that to look. We shouldn't be told that we can't have to flip a bat at a baseball game. You know, we should have our rights, right?
Mhm.
So, you know, freedom can be a big thing or a small thing. And it's really just to me a matter of being able to not be under the control of someone else. If you're under the control of someone else, then you're not really free. You
Mhm.
know, if that person's someone that you trust and care about, perhaps it's the easier way to give up your freedom in that manner, but it's your choice. If you don't have a choice to give up your freedom, then you don't, you're really oppressed, right?
Mhm.
So that's how I kind of look at it. When I talk about you know the intersectionality, that's a separate thing, but I think it's a great thing, and I think that as much as we can be intersectional, I think that our goals of freedom should not hinge on anyone else, right? So like the Israelis wanted to be free and became Zionists, and now they're like oppressing somebody else. That's not what you're supposed to do.
Mhm.
Um, you know the Palestinians now have no right to self determination. They have no right to their own property, to their own homes, right? they have no options. They're being oppressed. That's the whole difference, right?
But
Between
but
black and oppressed.
isn't that the model of freedom that the United States set up?
Well, we have to keep in mind that the United States is a colonial, a settler, apartheid country. That's what it's based on. I mean, we came here as guests to the natives, and then they annihilated the, you know,
Yeah.
all of them, and then they brought us here, for labor, and just like ate off our backs for hundreds of years. And then they were like, hey, everything's cool. We're all equal. You know what I mean? Like, if that's not what, like, is that not what happened in Australia? Is that not what happened in South Africa? Is that not what, I mean, that's what they do. That's what they're doing in Israel. It's the exact same thing everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's why, I mean, it's what they're doing in Portland. If you look at the police, they don't live here. It's 84% of the police live in Vancouver and Beaverton and stuff, and Forest Grove. They don't live in Portland.
Wow.
They come here and get paid and take their money and leave.
Yeah.
And in order to keep their jobs, they have to label us as gang members or whatever else. And so this is great for them. This is a feeding season for them. If they can make us look horrible, if they can not do their jobs so that crime gets out of control, if they can solve zero crimes and so crimes go up, they'll say, hey, we need more money. And then we just give them money and they just eat, and they eat good. That's what they do. So, this idea of what fascism is, I think that's why you're seeing a big rise in the movement of the anti-fascists, is that, this is this long-term idea that, like, whenever you're trying to control the populace to enforce your politics, like through a physical force, then like you're essentially dabbling in fascism. And so that's why people see like Ted Wheeler, he can't pass his policies. He just wants to, do like money stuff, and he can't unless he gets everything the way he likes it, so it's pretty, so he can package it up and brand Portland as a Portlandia and get his hotel money, right? So if that's his goal,
is that the play?
I mean, how is it not? I mean, if you look at when I was just actually reading a thing today, Ted Wheeler actually ran for the city commissioner's office in Boston like 30 years ago.
Okay.
And failed. He was like 30 years old. And so it was like 25 years ago, something like that. And anyway, he failed, right? So in that failure, of course, back then he was Republican, as I'm sure everyone knows, he was Republican. And at the time, he ran on like a platform of a fiscal, of a financial growth. He was like, a lot of people are going to be talking about crime and the police and stuff like that, but I think we need to focus on making money. That was what he said. And he's changed his party now, so he's a Democrat or whatever. But has he really changed?
Right.
Not really. I mean, if you look at before, Trump was here and he was just letting a Trump come in and do whatever he wanted. And now Biden and them want to come in with the DOJ, and he's like, no. So you cooperate with Trump and not Biden, but you're a Democrat. Like, if you just watch his plays, like, he's totally a Republican. Like, it's not even a question about it. He's the mayor, so it doesn't actually matter. He doesn't really have to like be a part of any party.
How do we produce justice and produce constructive change with, I mean, he's there, you know what I mean? So we're here, he's there. How do we produce justice and constructive change despite his presence?
I think we have, again, games. I think it's really hard to go around the mayor and making any changes in this city. The mayor is also the police commissioner, so that consolidation of power gives him a lot. And so unless we can get him an open attack line on the union, he really is kind of powerless in that position, because the a police union is more influential than the mayor's office. And so as the commissioner, he's beholden as the mayor and the commissioner, to the union. So that becomes the issue. Really, to take this thing down, you have to attack, the union, and you have to have a mayor that's willing to do that.
Well, I'm saying, like, apart from taking it down, because let's just say we can't take it down. Like, I don't mean to, like.
No, it's fine.
That's the goal. But like, what? All right, we can't take it down. So what is there?
But I think we can take it down, because I think that we can take down the mayor. Like, there's currently a recall campaign that's very likely to get on the ballot. So we're there again. We have another chance to do this. Like, who likes?
What I'm getting at is, like, just like in America, like, when people said, "Oh, if we just get Trump out of office, then everything will be good." So let's say Ted Wheeler goes, but Ted Wheeler is not Ted Wheeler. Ted Wheeler is the mind, the ideology of whatever party and whatever
Right.
suspected, white supremacist ideology that he has. I don't know him, but like it just the way that things are playing out, the way that the deception is going, the outcomes, they mirror everything that we've seen in America, right? And
Right.
so
Right.
that's why I say it's suspected. I
He's a
don't know,
settler.
whatever.
He's a settler for
So
sure.
so you take out Ted Wheeler, but you put another person in this place that looks just like him or that thinks just like him, and then we're dealing with the same problem. So
Possible.
so for me, the way when I look at it, I'm like, all right, we could get him out, or he might be gone in 4 years, but Portland is still going Portland. You know what I mean? Like, so if Portland is still going Portland, what do we do to work around that? If there is a path, or
Right.
is there just the best way is just to go through it and just break it up?
It's tough because I feel like Black people are always in a position where we're like, well, if we just don't have any power, then what? How are we going to survive, right? That's like
Mhm,
it's like our thing, and we always make it, right? We always make it. That's our thing.
mhm.
Um, but I think that it's like the stuff that we were talking about on on the one call I saw you on, as
Oh, what,
far as like
Albina?
building Black neighborhoods, like
Mhm,
looking at the Albina Vision Trust project, like looking at the Black folks that are looking at taking over Chinatown. You know,
mhm.
those are really the kind of things that we have to do to create our own neighborhoods that we can control,
Yeah.
that we can handle, that we can say, hey, we don't want this help. We can have voter rights. We can have, neighborhood associations where we have a democracy amongst each other,
Mhm.
you know, and really separate. I think there's a lot of avenues to get things done. There's also charters that people, there's like a charter approach to, tackling a police issues or trying to rein in police issues. I think that there's a lot of tools that are to disposal, but again, that's where it's so important that we start to educate each other. Hey, these are the ways we can do things so that within our own community, we can have these robust conversations and start to bring together the high levels of expertise that we actually already have. We just don't always know each other, or don't always
Mhm.
connect properly, or we get told we can't talk to one another by somebody else who says this person is this, that, and the other, right?
Yeah.
So we have to like learn how to actually connect on a functional basis, and not just always to try and hang out and get along and eat stuff together, but like actually like build things. We need to have like real Black like organizations that aren't just like beholden on state and nonprofit money.
Mhm.
We have to have things that are able to teach us, so we can all actually get together and have like good combos. Because I feel like what always happens is we start saying, okay, we're going to have these people all get together, but we need these white people to fill these roles.
Mhm.
And before you know it, the white folks are making all the decisions. It's not even
Mhm.
always their fault, but they're just making all the decisions because they're the ones that have the expertise. But
Mhm.
like we have people that have it, that have the expertise, but like we don't all agree on everything, and so we say, okay, I've got to go and silo off because Black folks aren't a monolith, and this guy's wrong. You know what I mean? So we
Mhm.
have to like take that seriously and say, yeah, Black people are not a monolith. Everything that I want is not everything that everyone wants. I
Mhm.
know that. Like I'm a socialist and I'm a Black person. Every Black person is not a socialist. I
Mhm.
understand that. So like the selling point to most of Black people is not like a socialism, but the benefits of socialism sell very well,
Mhm.
right? So again, it's knowing, like people say, how are you effective in talking to people? It's like because I know what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
So if we can get everyone on that level, then we could have much more, a substantive conversations with everyone, and voting at that point becomes more informed, and then
Mhm.
organizing becomes a lot easier. But we can't just like skip steps and just be in the streets all the time and no one knows on what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? That's
Right.
not going to help us. And that's where, again, I think we have to take this protest energy. I said this last year, and actually in the summertime, this energy that we have to walk around 6 miles a night or whatever,
Mhm.
hanging out, building signs, making snacks for 2 hours for everybody, and carrying water around. That's all great energy, right?
Mhm.
But like we have to also take that energy and like educate each other,
Yeah.
educate ourselves,
Yeah.
work on each other, work on ourselves, be honest, organize at our jobs. We can't just be in the streets organizing. We have to organize in our homes. These are the things that we have to like really do, and we have to help each other do that. that's the whole thing. Like, I worry so much about like this idea of like, oh, we just have to take care of everybody, but we're not thinking about taking care of ourselves, because you really can't take care of anybody if you're just like burnt out, useless, frustrated, and like, you know,
Yeah.
uneducated and broke. It's not going to work. You can't help
Mhm.
anybody else. You have to take care of yourself first. So we have to be able to like build each other up, so that then more of us, can go and help. I feel like a lot of people are trying to be the only person that can help, but
Mm.
like the whole goal is to make it so everyone has a little more than they need. This way,
Mm.
everyone can help everybody else, out a bit more.
For
That's
sure.
how I look at it.
I feel you, bro. It's like when you said that freedom over solidarity, it was like, man, that's hard. And also, but it's like the words mean so many different things to different people, because it's something, it's similar to something that I say. Like, I say that we don't we don't need, like, as it pertains to the Black community,
Mhm.
you know, I feel like we don't need allies as much as we think we need allies. We just need solidarity, right? And so, like, we need solidarity among what you're saying. We need solidarity among ourselves,
Mhm.
because if we
Yeah.
had the solidarity among ourselves, we wouldn't need so many other people and other groups to come alongside us and help us with our problems. Because there are
Right. And
certain problems that we have, not necessarily some of it that are self-inflicted and self-created, but other problems are problems that we've been dealing with systemically for hundreds of years. Now, we know historically, for the most part, that the so-called colonizers and or oppressor class of people, which typically plays out in the in the system that we're in as European, Euro-Americans, i.e. white people, those folks are not here, and their mission is not predicated on helping us solve our problems. And so
right.
nobody's going to help us the way that we help us. Even if they say that they're allies, they're only going to go so far naturally, because everybody is kind of wired to protect their own family, their own culture, and cling to their own group.
Right.
And because the cost of being an ally, you might be ostracized from your group. And a lot of people don't want to do that. And so then the allies help out for 6 months, 12 months, maybe 2 years. You know what I mean? I had had an interview with Jane Elliott, and she was like, white women, they get all excited and they want to help people out, and they only stick to a to a cause for no more than 2 years, and then they go back to their white husbands and the men that they've been talking about, and they're feminists, but then they don't want to help anybody else when they go back to their husband. So like, even Jane Elliott says white people will stay with the cause for 2 years, but then they're gonna go back to the status quo.
Yeah.
And so it's like, man, then it's
Yeah.
just like, it's just us left over at the end of the day. So
Every
what
time.
you're saying is spot on, bro.
I mean, you see it every single time, even this last year when, I was making a couple of like, I made a couple of reckless moves. I got arrested a few times, things like that. Like, I had a couple of homies hit me like, bro, be careful out there, because like these white folks aren't going to, stand behind you for that long. They're going to help you. Like, they're all pumped up about you now, but like next year, they're going to be like, eh, they're
He's
going to
a
move on.
troublemaker.
So whatever. And you know, fact as what happened, exactly what happened. It's like it was great for a while, and then they're like, oh, we don't like this or we don't like that, and they find reasons to hate you.
Mhm,
So it's like that's cool,
mhm.
but like they have to let themselves off of the train as well, and that's how
Mhm.
they do it. Some of them go like extra super radical, and they're like, screw everybody else, and they get on like a train of like, let's cancel all the black people because they're not as radical as they should be. I'm angrier than they are. Why is that?
Yeah.
I'm like, because you're gonna burn out in 6 months to
Right.
a year,
Yeah.
maybe 2 years, like or you'll end up like a homeless or something like that, and then you'll be like, I have to change my life around. I can't be doing all this radical stuff. Like, yeah, of course, because you're not doing this as a like, I'm black every day,
Hmm.
and I've been mad since as long as I can remember.
Right.
Right. So I'm not gonna sit here and like destroy my life just because I'm angry right now.
Right.
I've been angry, bro. Like, I'm angry every time they shoot somebody. I was angry when they shot like Amadou Diallo. I was shot when my brother went to jail. I was shot when my best friend went to jail at 15. You know what I mean? Like, we've been doing this. It's
Yeah.
not like I can sit here and get all raged up and just go explode somewhere. I'm not white.
Yeah.
I can't do
No,
that.
it doesn't work that way. So I teach
Right.
this. I teach this private class. It's called "Know Your Enemy: The Evolution of Racism," and it's deep. It goes from the 1400s all the way up to present day, and just shows like specific moments in history that kind of show you that how racism has evolved to this point. Because everything that we're experiencing right now, there are no coincidences. Everything is tied to history, and I can, I pinpoint certain things, certain laws that were passed, certain events that tie directly into today, even policing and all that. So um, and it's honestly, it was designed just for black people, but then white people will still sign up. and but then like when I hit them with the information, I mean the information is gonna hit different for everybody, but like
Right.
when they get hit with it, it's so outside of their sphere of knowledge. It's just like, how are you not enraged? I mean, you guys are just taking it so easy. I'm like, dog, I've been living with this. Like I can't, I would die of a heart attack if I gave into, the amount of stress and cortisol that's running through my body every time that I experience racism, whether it's me or vicariously. So
Right.
yeah, bro, we can't get overly worked up, and we're not going to be overly worked up. Like this is our lived experience, and we've learned how to.
They'll put us in jail for being like they'll shoot us just for being angry like that. Like if people saw like how angry I could actually be, like I'd be like, you guys have no like I go to jail immediately, and you
Yeah.
guys are all like, thank God he was scaring me. Like so I'm
Yeah.
not even gonna let my emotions ever. That's why we laugh at stuff like this. That's why when the Capitol riots happened, and I was on Willamette Week or OPB or whatever it was I was on that day. I was like, they were like, I was like, honestly, I'm like, how do you feel about this? I was like, I'm cracking up, and they were like, you mean like a sarcastic laugh? I'm like, no, this is hilarious, bro. Like white people are attacking the Capitol. Like, what do you
For
mean?
me, I was like, they should have did this a long time ago.
This isn't ironic laughter. This is the actual laughter. Like this is hilarious. Why are they?
And it's just, and the
It's
funny
not
thing to
racist
me,
enough.
yeah, the funny thing to me is like, this is the most American thing ever. Like, this is America, bro. Like, this is what
Of course,
America
it's
is all about.
funny.
Like, revolting against the system. And if you read the Declaration of Independence, it tells you if this doesn't serve you well, then you should like
Rise up against it.
Yeah, you should ride against it. So it's like, this is what they're supposed to do. I wish they would have did this when they gave us those $600 checks. You know what I mean? Like, right for the $600 stimulus, because that is disrespectful, bro. Like $600.
I don't actually even know why they invaded the Capitol to this day. Was it because they weren't allowed to go outside? Was it because they had to have masks on? Was it because they were just mad at Joe Biden? Was it just over Donald Trump? I mean, like, was it really over Donald Trump?
Trump was like, hey, they're gonna sign into electoral college, so stop them. You know what I mean? So they're going in there taking paperwork, as if things aren't digital. But it was bad, bro. It was bad.
Listen, that was one of the funniest things I've ever seen, and it really like to me like I think that when I realized that like white folks were offended, that I thought that was funny.
They were offended.
It just they were just like, you think this is funny?
Yeah.
Like they almost took over the country, and I'm like, with paintball guns, like what were y'all doing? Like what's really going on? You mean to tell me like Russia's not looking like, wait a minute, we can just walk up in there and steal the Constitution? Like I can just walk up to the podium, like no big deal, and just be like, all right, bye guys, as long as I'm white. Bro. Like, is that what this is about right now?
We were looking like, real weak, real vulnerable.
Yeah, like I'm sure North Korea's like, yeah, go ahead and finish the missiles, son. They ain't doing nothing. We can walk into paintball guns and keep them out.
They're like, man, we don't even need the missiles. Like, don't even spend that money. We're just gonna walk in, guys.
And it's extra funny because if it was like 8,000 black people, they would have been shooting us.
It'd have been the biggest massacre that you've never seen before. Yeah.
They would have turned off all the cameras, EMP'd the whole thing, and just murked like 30 people. And then they would have been like, we don't know what happened, but people were attacking and blah, blah, blah. And they were terrorists, And so like, so for me, just to watch them be like, what do we do? Like, what you would do if it was us?
Right. It's not even, not rocket science at all.
And then the white girl got shot. They were like, don't come in the window. Don't come in the window. She busts the glass out, jump in the window, bang, get shot. And they're like, oh my God, they shot her. I'm like, y'all in the Capitol building attacking senators, busting windows out. And dudes got a gun saying, don't come in here, don't come in here. And you go and hop in and you're armed. Like,
what do you, I mean, that was light. I mean, I don't mean to make light of her death, but like that was light as opposed to what could have happened and what normally would happen. So
listen, they seen that Mexican boy down in Vallejo and he had his hands up, right? I mean,
Mhm.
was that Vallejo? Or was that the I don't know. There's so
I
many
don't
again.
remember exactly. Yeah.
They shooting kids out here, bro, like multiple times. Bang, 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 knock them on the ground, shooting their feet up bottoms. But
Yeah.
like, so to me, it's just like it's almost like it's not a funny joke, but it's a joke because we know
You
what
just
they would do.
you can't make this shit up, bro. Like it's just
No,
really you
no,
really
all
can't
of
make
this
this
stuff,
up.
it's wild. I mean,
Yeah.
the little Mexican boy that got shot, the girl that got shot with a knife, talking about she was gonna stab somebody, so you shot her.
Yeah.
I'm lost. You know,
Oh, I thought it was a taser. Like, come on, man.
I thought it was a taser. I had actually I forgot about that.
Yeah, bro. I mean, because that's how rapid. And then, bro, the thing is, there's so many mass shootings that are underreported. Like every 2-3 days, mass shootings.
But
But
every time a
we
black
don't
person
know their
dies, it's on the
names. We don't
news.
know the names of the victims. It doesn't go viral. You notice how slick it is? Like it's
But every time a
crazy
black person dies, it's on the news.
on the news.
Every time.
Every
Gang
time.
shooting, cop shooting, doesn't matter. If they're black, people are like, I don't even care if they're not black. Are they black? Oh, make a big deal about it. Like,
Yeah.
so like that's why in Portland there's been all these shootings. I think about half of them involve black people, but I haven't heard about any shootings involve white people.
You'll never hear about it. Now, speaking of that, so we can let's change gears back to Portland. Now, I was watching the news. I've been watching the news lately, like up until now, like up until last year. Now I just feel old. I'm watching the news all the time. So I was watching. Actually,
Oh man,
I was on YouTube. I don't know if you've seen this yet. Have you seen this?
yeah, go ahead. I seen
Okay,
this.
so I'm gonna play a little clip. But I was watching YouTube and I seen a video. It was like, is Seattle finished or something like that, or is Seattle dead? And that was like a month ago. And then I just seen this the other day. I'm like, oh wow. So
Sinclair Media.
so we have to ask, is Portland over? I'm gonna play a little clip and then we'll dig into it.
I'm Jeff Gianola. Starting tonight and all this week, we're taking an in-depth look at the issues plaguing our city. And we ask this question: is Portland over? Violence, vandalism, destruction. As Portland struggles through the pandemic, violent protests have damaged the city and continue to destroy its reputation.
I've been to Portland. I visited Portland. I think it's a fantastic city. Currently, if you ask me to go to Portland, it wouldn't be on my list.
I have no interest in traveling to Portland whatsoever. And I used to live in Oregon, but I don't think it's as safe as it used to be.
Well, I was raised in Portland, Oregon. So to me, I think of the old Portland. I know now it's changed tremendously and there's a lot of trouble up there.
Peaceful protests hijacked by violence, city landmarks defaced and torn down, uncontrolled vandalism that has forced businesses to close, and a mayor and other leaders who seem overwhelmed, ineffective, and ill-equipped to stop it.
If we are not able to get the federal administration to back off and leave our city, it will happen all across the United States.
As Portland emerges from the pandemic, we're left with a downtown fenced off, boarded up, and dying. A homeless problem that was bad, but has gotten worse. And there's this: everywhere you look, the city of roses has become the city of trash and filth.
It was just a little disappointing to see how unkempt the city was, and the homelessness was in a bad way. It was worse than I thought it was going to be.
So there you have it, man. Police brutality, protesting, unprecedented homelessness, pollution, and some jarring visuals of the protests and what was going on downtown. What runs through your mind after seeing that 2-minute clip?
I mean, the first thing that hits my head, I see someone that I'm like, well, that's a propaganda clip, you know, like who made this one, bro? Like this straight at the SS, bro. Like what's this, man? Like,
Man,
they went hard for that one. You know, also like if you see like people in Portland are interviewing people like in Folsom, California, and like Orangevale, and you know, Idaho. Would you visit Portland right now? Oh no, I watch Coin, so no way, you know. But you know, like Portland is not under fire. It's not under siege. The downtown is shut down because no one has any money, and people are homeless everywhere because no one has any money. And the city is not trying to like do projects that are going to raise money for everyone. They're just trying to, get rich people to have money again. So a big thing about society is like when things don't work, you have to correct it. And if you're a political leader, you have to be a part of that. And we just don't, like if the pandemic, even prior to the protest, the pandemic was like showing us our systems are not built to help us. They're built to help a few. They're not built to help the common person. There's no safeguards in place. There's nothing in place. And it's like people are just ignoring that was all exposed and that people are still struggling. Like, because a lot of people are not struggling anymore, right? They got their stimulus checks, or they got their $600, or they got their, their whatever. And so, they're unemployment or whatever. So they're doing okay. And they're like, it's not really a big deal. I'm just going to chill. Right. And so the economy is obviously struggling because people aren't buying stuff. It's like a depression kind of thing. Stocks are falling again. After jumping up, they're falling down again, all this kind of stuff. The honeymoon with the Biden's over. Right. Yeah. So you'll see now they're trying to throw all this like random stuff at us. Oh, the city is dying. Palestine. They've banned killing people in Palestine, right? Like I'm totally with, solidarity with Palestine, like 1,000%. But like they've banned killing people in Palestine. But it's like that the news will just change. They talk about anything else. Colombia, the hate crimes against Asians, hate crimes against Jews, anything else, anything but what is going on right here. Yeah. So, the fact of the matter is the pandemic has, shut down a town a long time ago. There haven't, all those clips of violence in the protests and stuff were all from, 2020. There's no 2021 video in that entire collage. So what they're doing now is just fear mongering. Hey, looks like Portland's destroyed, blah, blah, blah. People aren't going to come here. It's going to ruin our lives. But who really is, lives here and depends on tourism? Some rich people, folks who work in hotels, and people that, and some restaurateurs. That is a big section of society, but it's all rich people.
Well, I would say for the tourism, it's weird, man. Like I know like the food cart people, granted, even though because the restaurants have shut down, food carts have like come up. But if restaurants were open, bars were open, all that stuff. It's just,
they're not, because they're not sustainable businesses unless they overcharge and underpay. And that's what the pandemic exposed us to. Okay. Right. Yeah. It's taking away that layer of cream, because a lot of people can eat off that top layer of cream, but it's only but it's not a majority of people. It's just a good number of people. But when that top layer of cream goes away, a lot of people will automatically become as desperate as the people on the bottom. That's why you saw so much like a solidarity last summer, because a lot of people still ain't paid rent yet. Right. So now you have, sure, people are doing better. There's more money or whatever. Things are starting to open up or whatever. But like a lot of people are also like 6 months behind on rent or mortgage. Yeah. Yeah. And facing, eviction. That's why they just passed this thing again. They keep on, putting the football. But like a lot of people are still like never going to be able to get out of this hole. So you have all these different crises, and what they're really trying to do is it's kind of like a COVID in the beginning. They're trying not to have everything hit the window at the same time.
So there's. Oh man,
they're staggering us,
bringing up stories that just don't necessarily have anything to do with anything, but
they distract you with this over here. So you're like emergency, let's stay in the streets and protest or whatever you're going to do in solidarity with this place and this place and that place and this shooting and that, because they're shooting every day. So like, and now if you're going to be in solidarity for one, you have to do it for all of them. So now every time someone gets shot anywhere in the country, we have to be on the ground mobilizing and figuring out and contacting them, right? So it keeps all the activists busy. And then the people who are like, yo, what are we going to do for like a day-to-day stuff? There's no one else to turn to. And so they just to go back to, whoever's offering them something. And that's usually the city or the police saying, hey, we've got like a little plan over here and we're going to do this, or give you a gift card for $150 in the lottery or whatever. At least there's an option here. So I'm going to go ahead and try that, because people are busy just, are chasing their tails. The activists are all chasing our tails. So, you just kind of get stuck out there. So it's hard to it's hard because there's always a play being made, in the media to keep us distracted, and then you have these actual issues that are hitting us. There's still the homelessness, there's still the pandemic, there's still social justice and the police, shooting people.
Yeah.
But if you can, if you can say, okay, but look at the black on black crime, that kind of gives the police a bit of leeway
Mm-hmm.
until they shoot a bunch of more black people, which is going to be their response to the black on black crime.
Mm-hmm.
So in the meantime, they can kind of they can punt that football a little bit because we're all focused on the community and helping each other.
Yeah.
Right. So in the meantime, it's now the pandemic. They're getting everyone vaccinated or whatever. So it seems like things are evening out there a little bit. We'll open up a little bit and see how that goes. That's like another punt over here. Now all we have to deal with is the homelessness, and of course their goal is always to hide the homelessness. It's not to solve it. And so what they'll do over the next few months is try and hide the homelessness as the police violence ramps back up. It's where we're only dealing with one thing at a time. You can't keep, you don't get that mass anger like we had last year.
Yeah.
And so I feel like the city is playing this game, just like they're trained to do this. This is like the standard protocol for every city does, is you try and split up a movement into a couple different things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I say, the energy is always going to change. That's why that's why the freedom in my mind, remaining free, so we can help each other all get free, is more important than solidarity at a lot of times. Like especially if the solid, if the solidarity is not real. I feel like a lot of black people got into the solidarity last year because it was like, hey, we're all going to rally behind Black Lives or BLM or whatever you want to call it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to rally and say, hey, the black people are the most oppressed. They're getting killed by police. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
We were all going to march in that way. And then it became a way of, well, like, okay, we actually need you guys to focus on all these other things.
Mm.
And again, it makes it hard to educate in one thing if you're educating on everything.
Right.
So then, that solidarity became, we actually want to, like a struggle compare, and we want to, add this and add this and add this flavor. And so then it became a thing of, is this a solidarity or is this just like just what's it called, intersectionality?
Mm-hmm.
And is this forced intersectionality?
Mm.
Because then that becomes it becomes like another question, because then like if you're religious or you're not religious or you're this or you're that, like sometimes some things are just oil and water.
Yeah.
So if you can't have solidarity, then you have to have factions, and if you have to have factions, then you have to agree with each faction, or you have to agree with how they talk or whatever else. Then it's like you end up in all kinds of different splits, and then the people are enabling, and then
it's hard to focus on one thing at a
because
time.
now you're kicking people out because they're not agreeing with you.
Yeah.
So now we can't have solidarity because you don't agree with somebody. So now we have to not talk to that person, or can't work with that person, or no one can talk to that person because I'm not allowed to talk to anybody that you don't like, So that becomes all of that, which is not, in honesty, solidarity. It's just arguing. So that's why I say, at the end of the day, if I can't have solidarity, I'll take freedom.
For sure.
But I would like to have both. But the freedom is the most important part. I can't lose track of that.
For sure. Now, I grew up here, grew up off 15th in Alberta, or 15th a block off Alberta. And it's like, I don't know what happened to my city. Grew up here, you know what I mean? Went to college, came back, and it's been progressively getting to what it is. And now what's happening, the homelessness, this used to be like the cleanest place, in the country. I remember like you would get pulled over, you would get cited for pollution. Like, I remember I used to be scared. I remember one time, like I was driving down the street and I thought about throwing my gun out the window. I was like, nah, I might get a ticket. And it was like around the time of Trayvon Martin and Mike Brown. I was like, man, I might get pulled over by the police. I might get shot for, spitting my gun out the window, because I know how they are out here. But it was just so that, but we went from that to like where we're at now. And it's just weird. And there was a quote that I heard. His name is Ian Dunlap. He's like an investor guru type dude. But I don't want to say guru because that's like a stigma, but he's a really wise investor. But he said that America, without the stock market and without the military, the United States is a third world country. And it's like with that video, even though that was propaganda, like all this stuff is happening. You got federal troops on the ground doing that. You got our own police killing us and with impunity. And last year when things went down in the tank just for a few months, our whole society collapsed. If it would have collapsed, like fell flat on its face if it wasn't for the stimulus. So how many were three? It was three of us, three stimuluses, bro. And so, or stimuli, I should say. So it's just like, what is happening right now? Like, do we really understand that without our military and without the stock market, we are in a third world country? I don't think people have that reality check. Like anyone is giving them that reality check, bro.
So like I'm teaching my youngest son, he's 17, how to drive right now, right? Like he's been driving me everywhere the last a month or so.
Word.
And he's just like, why are there so many potholes?
Mm.
So like, he's always like, I'm walking in now, it's like I'm on calls and stuff. He's like, don't we have like, $300 million for roads? Why do we have potholes that go an entire block? Like one pothole is like a rip. It's like an earthquake occurred or something. It's just sitting there,
Yeah.
And it's like they're everywhere. Like you have to exit, you bang when you're driving. Like because we live in a third world country, bro. Like the airports are all old now. If you look, like ours is like recently remodeled, so it's not that bad. But like a fly to Phoenix.
Oh yeah.
You're like, what is this? Like you
I'm flying through there. I'm flying through there next week, bro. It's a terrible.
What's going on here? You know what I mean? Like
Kansas City, it's the worst ever. It's terrible. It's some towns out there. Yeah.
Go to O'Hare. It's trash bags. It's like this country hasn't invested in communities at any level, and that's why you're seeing everyone is getting upset now. It's not just white people, right? Because this country is not post-racial, but it's definitely getting to the point where not just Black people and natives are starting to feel like, what is going on? We're all starting to feel like this is not worth it anymore. The dream is worth it to a lot of people if they got to break a few eggs, but I get to have these nice things. But if they can't have those nice things anymore, they start questioning, like maybe it's not a matter of effort. Maybe it is just a matter of privilege. Who has more privilege than me? Because as soon as people start being poor, they start wondering why. As soon as people start struggling, they start wondering why. We wonder why, and I figured out a long time ago why we was poor. Because we came out of slavery, because we came off of boats, right? So we know why we're poor. Now they're confused. They're like, why are we poor? We have had redlining working in our favor. We were given free land when we came here. My great grandfather, and now I'm broke. How dare I be? It's the country's fault. So now everyone's like, yeah, I'm with it. But with that, again, those people necessarily, they'll say that they feel us, right, and they understand us, but they don't.
Yeah.
And most of us don't have the education to tell the difference our damn selves. So that's why I keep on saying, if we don't have the education, if we don't have these conversations, if people don't listen to each other, if the youths keep on ignoring the elders because they don't speak the way that they do, if we have the elders that won't speak to the youth because they dress a certain way, we're not going to get there. So it's like that Martin Luther King speech on the Boondocks. I'm moving to Canada. Like because
it's hilarious and ironic and still timely to this day.
And that was like 15 years ago, like, and it's still timely to this moment, right? Because what it's really about is like, niggers, we have to get together. We have to like figure it out. We have to have the hard conversations with one another. Yes, feelings are going to get hurt. Yes, your friends might see you different, but like we have to have those conversations in our communities, whatever that means for each of us, right? Because that's how we stop our internal violence. That's how we formulate a plan and get them together to actually take on the system, to take on seats and on more seats in city council. So it's not just the approved Black people, but like if we don't have any, like if you look at any other ethnic group, even the small ones, even this, like the Eastern Europeans that have come here, the Slavic community, they're figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
They don't all agree, they don't all get along. Some of them probably kill each other's families in other countries, but like they're figuring it out, and they have a group, they have a block, and they're on all the councils,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Black folks have to do the same thing, and we have to be prepared to do that.
Yeah.
We can't be cutting each other off because he's not radical enough, and I need somebody who acts like he's Malcolm X.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to get us anywhere.
Yeah.
We have to bring us all in and find a place that we can all agree on. That's why when we had that thing with the protests recently, we had that letter go out. We sent that letter. A bunch of Black people signed off on it and said, hey, this is a letter to our protest community. And it was important because like if you have like I think it ended up being like 65 Black people who are like are somewhat activists in the community saying, hey, we all agree on this point. And there's anarchists in there, there's people that work at City Hall in there, there's a state rep on there, there's
Mm-hmm.
doctors on there, there's lawyers on there, there's students on there, there's kids on there. That tells you that like this is something that we all agree about.
Yeah.
And most people in Portland don't even know 50 Black people.
Mm.
Let's be honest. Most, especially white people, they don't know 50 Black people.
Yeah, most for sure. Of course not.
No, they have like a Black guy at their job that they know, and the guy at the gas station, and like a friend,
mm-hmm.
a Black friend or a cousin, or like their son-in-law, right? But
Yeah.
like, it's not going to be like I have, like I can just name off 50 Black people I know outside of Facebook.
Right.
It can't, probably even on Facebook, it's just not going to happen, not in Portland. Yeah. So for us, that's like a normal thing. I definitely have like 100, 200, 300 Black people I could just name off right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
To start talking, like, oh, I know this guy, this guy, and this guy, and this guy, and this girl, and this girl, and them, and them, and them, I'd go on all day. But most people in Portland just can't do that. Mm-hmm. So if they see that many of us, it actually has an impact. Like it actually made Newsweek.
Mm.
It made Newsweek because 50 people at the time of publication had signed the letter in Portland.
That's crazy.
So like we have a lot more power than we give ourselves like a credit for. Mm-hmm. We just don't always execute or use it or stand in like a position where it makes sense. Because if you have a power, you have to execute on it.
Yeah.
You have to start in a position of power and work up from there.
So what has happened since that letter and those 65 people? Has there been continued conversation, continued organization amongst the 65?
There has also been a bunch of blowups, and a bunch of white people are mad at each other and won't to talk to each other now as well. Mm. So but in doing that though, I think that what happened is it actually caused the mayor to, as he always does, to take our words and misuse them, which allowed us to have a press conference about that, which also made national news. Right. And so again, Black people are being seen as having a voice in Portland as opposed to just existing here in silence. Yeah. And I think that's what we have to show people, is that if we can put aside our petty differences or even our major differences at times, and say, hey, what's most important? I remember when Joanne got framed by the cops, as we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And there was a letter that went around, and someone, I think Lakiana or someone, sent it to me and said, hey, would you be interested in signing this? It's basically a thing saying that we shouldn't, basically condemning, the actions that the police took against Joanne. And everyone knows I'm not like the biggest Joanne fan. I respect her, right? I'm not like, I don't like harp on every word. I think she's like like a boss or anything, and like in my world. But I was like, yeah, I'll sign this. I'm not gonna. I definitely, condemn a police accusing Black people of crimes falsely, especially Black women in power. The only Black woman at the time, that was on, only Black woman still, on a city council, and and it's the police. So of course, after police, right? So yeah, I condemned it. I signed the letter. Later on, the letter gets published. There's a lot of names on there. There's a Matt Hennessy's on there. Some other people I really just don't rock with, right? So people are like, "Man, do you see that your name's on the letter along with these people?" And I'm like, "What's that guy do with me?"
So what?
What's that guy do with me? Well, you don't want to be. I'm not associated with them. I signed this letter, and so did they. So what that tells you is that we all agreed on this. Yeah. As much as I don't like these people over here, and they don't like me, right, we all agreed on this. And what that tells you is that you can't just break us up by starting rumors or doing this or that and saying this person's got to, oh, you can't talk to these people, because that's all a control tactic, right? That's
Yeah, they'll try to pit you against each other and use their words and say, oh,
yeah.
well, somebody
Are
said
there going
this.
to be problematic people? Absolutely. Are there going to be issues with people and people I don't like and rock with? Absolutely. But like, that doesn't mean that I can't agree with them at certain times. And that's a big thing that we have to do as like a movement, is understand that like, as much as we have learned that the oppressor has certain language and we shouldn't adopt that language, there's also certain things that everyone says.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone says that and it seems like, oh, I heard a bad guy say that, that might be true because maybe it's English, So we have to start to just to be smarter on how we divide ourselves or separate ourselves. And it's like the homie Sam says, big Sam Thompson, that we said, unity, it doesn't require us to be, uniform. It's like uniformity is not the same thing as unity.
Right.
We don't have to agree. I'm a Muslim. I'm a Orthodox Muslim. I have friends that are like in the nation, and like we have disagreements about like our religion. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to not be friends with you or not be able to talk with you or not be able to have a civil conversation just because I don't agree.
Right.
And for me, I can extend that to pretty far. I can talk to anybody, I feel like, because I know also though who I am, and I can I'm stand my ground.
Yeah.
So like even like with the cops, like people like don't talk to cops. I'm like, yeah, I don't like give cops information. It's silly, right. But like I can still talk to a cop if I want to.
Right.
I don't know who's gonna, because like last I checked, you can't tell a free man who to speak to and who not to.
That's a fact.
Or you can tell me what you want, but I can do what I want because I'm free.
Exactly.
So there's no one is going to silo me off from information based on some kind of a title or whatever, or like a slogan that people are yelling. Because yeah, F the police, but like and don't talk to cops. But like if I need to talk to a cop, I'm gonna talk to a cop. Right. And if I need to get, if I'm also gonna let these cops know, like I'm not here to be your friend.
Yeah.
I don't
anybody that see Mac talking to a cop, just relax. That's a free man talking. Just chill.
And you know what it is. Like, I'm not going to be sitting there, oh, blah, blah. And so that's the whole thing. Like, I remember we did the march up in Vancouver, with for Kevin Peterson.
Yeah.
There was that first one that turned into like absolute chaos. And so the family actually had asked me to help with like a second one, that didn't, end up with a whole bunch of chaos. And so I was like, yo, like, we're going to do this again. And the mission is we're not going to be fighting with them chuds. They're not going to be out here bringing machine guns, running down, walking through our parade, and we're not going to be smashing stuff up or none of that. We're just going to have a march for the family, like a vigil, like a proper vigil for the family. Like we have to sacrifice all the stuff that you want to do emotionally and say, yo, we're going to do this for the family. And so a bunch of guys with their tactical gears and America sleeves over their face and all this stuff showed up with their cameras and their LARP stuff, right? And they're all and they're all just getting ready on the corner. And so like I grabbed like a small group of people and like we walked over and I was like, yo, like we're not gonna do this today. And they were like, what do you mean? We're not doing this today. We're not fighting with you on the camera for live streams. We're not doing any of that. I don't have no cameras up. We don't have nothing up. It's just y'all with the cameras right now, just looking dumb. Like this ain't like a stream party. This ain't, you're a violence porn or whatever. We're not going to be fighting with the police or y'all. The police killed this family's kid and is lying about it. And we're going to have a march, and we're going to march, up to where they killed somebody else last year. And we're going to stop there and have, us some music and some talks. And we're going to come back over here again. And we ain't going to have no problems. And they was like, well, they all got their AK-47s and all this other stuff, right? And I'm just like, and so the one dude's like, so how do we know we're not going to have property damage? And I'm like, because I just said so. Who are you? I'm like, I'm gonna get someone to march. You know what I mean? Like, you got any problems? Come and find me. I got a big old scarf on my head. You see me, so just come holler when you see me. Don't bother nobody in the march. Something happens, come and find me. I'll talk about it.
It's ridiculous.
I'll take personal responsibility.
How do we know there's not going to be any property damage? Like that's what y'all worried. You got an AK-47 because you worried about
AR-15, right? So I'm like, look. If there's anything is damage or problems, I'll take care of it personally.
Yeah.
My name is Max Smiff. You can find me on the internet.
It's ridiculous. Man.
So I said I was just on the news, saying the same thing to Coin or whatever. So if there's any questions, you can ask him. How to get a hold of me? Ain't no problem. I know y'all talk, right?
For sure.
So they were like, all right. He was like, will you shake on it? I'm like, whatever. Yeah. So I shake the dude's hand. Gang of people got mad at me. Why are you shaking hands with with fascists? Blah blah. I said, first of all, I've never seen before in my life. That dude was chasing blah blah around. I don't know these people.
Yeah.
I said I'm not going to have any problems today. If I have to shake a man's hand and say we're not going to have any problems, that's all it takes for them to go home. We should be shaking hands.
Right.
I don't agree with you. I don't like
people just want to be right. They want to do things their way. They don't necessarily want to get it right. And
we had a nice march. There was no problems. The one guy in a trailer park popped out with a shotgun. We talked to him. He was fine. We went back in his house. We continued on our march. We did our thing. We got to the spot. We circled back. We came back to the same place. I did our thing. I played some music, had some performances, cried a bunch, gave some speeches, and we went home.
That's it.
And that's all we wanted to do. But like, you get these people who are so into like, hey, we need to have confrontation so we can escalate the situation. And it's like, it doesn't have to happen every day.
Yeah,
that's not always the case. Sometimes you do need to escalate when things are, when the pan is hot. You have to get up in there and push the envelope. But when the pan is cold, that butter's not going to melt. So you can throw at the pot all you want to, but like, what are we doing? Just sitting there on a cold pan.
But that comes from someone like yourself that's been out here doing this before it was trendy. You know what it is to be able to handle that conflict management, to truly just de-escalate a situation. Right. And if that's what everybody is all about, like bringing peace, and you make peace, and then people get in an uproar about you making peace, then that just lets you know, and everybody else know, oh, these are the people that are not really about what we're about.
And that's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's where that people are not focused on the goal, because and that's why I always tell people, like, if people's goal is Black liberation, they're going to do certain things a certain way. If people's goal is just anarchy, they probably don't care, and that's the hard thing to kind of get, because I'm not even against like an anarchist society, like a valid, actually thought out anarchist society. It's just another way to live. I feel like drop me anywhere, I'll figure it out, right? We can, I can make a situation work, but if we're trying to see Black people free, if that's our main goal, that's why, again, a freedom over a solidarity. Because if your goal doesn't actually care about my goal, then we don't actually have solidarity. We just have, that's actually an alliance. You're just here for the part that you're here for, and then when that part's over, you're going to go home. I get it.
And that's what's been happening. Now, just to change gears really quickly, because I know we have the clock up against the clock for you. I was peeping my guy Randall. I can't call him Randy. Randall Wyatt, man. He me and him go back, so I called him that when he was on the pod a couple weeks ago. I was like, bro, I'm gonna let you slide, but it's Randall from now, from here on out. But he made the post and about being on United Shades of America, and you're gonna be on there too. So by the time this comes out, which will be on Tuesday, United Shades of America will already have aired. So if you can kind of tell us like what, if they revealed to you, what are you talking about on there, and what did they highlight as far as like what you've been doing with the movement and whatnot?
Honestly, I haven't talked to the guys in a bit. I didn't even know it was coming out until Randall just told me. He actually gave me a call before he made that post and let me know that it was going to be airing this week. Yeah. I don't even have cable, so I don't really be watching. Like, people like, I saw you on the news. I'm like, that's crazy. I don't know.
Like, send me a link, bro.
Send me a link, bro. I'll never see it, bro. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I assume, because I talk to press about a whole lot else, that they'll be talking about, for me, a Black liberation, defunding the police and how that makes sense, and gardening. We actually met at my house last summer is when this interview actually took place. So it was right in the height of the protest. Yeah, so it's right in the height of the protests.
Okay.
I think it was in July or August that we actually did the interview. I think it was actually August.
Wow.
Because it was I think it was actually right after the fires.
Okay.
Because because we almost changed the location because my garden had gotten so jacked up in the smoke, like all my sunflowers were like dying and stuff.
Yeah.
But we ended up making it work. So it was it was it was cool like meeting Kamau Bell and stuff. He's a really intelligent dude. It's
Mhm.
nice to talk to him. I've seen his show a bit. He's kind of like, a comical or whatever. So I'm not sure how he's gonna cut it up exactly, if he's gonna make us look crazy, if he's gonna make us look, like we're,
Right.
respectable men, or at least me, maybe he'll be like, real respectable. What this guy Mac is wild. I don't know. But he interviewed us both at the same time at my house. And
Okay.
then I also saw the squad out in the field a couple times. I actually ran into them. We were both covering the rally they had at a Delta Park.
Oh
And
yeah.
so I was at the black rally on the one side, and then I dipped with the squad. We went over to the white side, and
Hmm.
it's kind of risky, but I was in there, and
Yeah.
we was taking videos. I still have all. I don't think I published any of that, but I have like a whole bunch of videos from in there still. And the CNN was also there, and I saw the crew because I had met them before, so I was like, "Yo," and they were like, CNN.
Right.
They're like liberals, in like a right wing thing. And they were like, they was like marching folks out of there. You're Antifa journalism, So
Yeah.
they didn't like know me or anything. I didn't have my scarf or nothing. So like, they couldn't like place me or anything. But I was up in there masked up,
Hmm.
and yes, and so I met them there. I mean, they could have a footage of me walking around in there. So I don't know. I know that they saw me in the field a couple times, so I don't know if they have a footage of me or not. Doing
Okay.
anything wild. I don't even know what I'm going to be on there. So
So I guess we'll all figure out together,
I guess
or
so. I
we'll
mean,
we'll we'll figure out first, and then we'll send you the link.
there we go. Please let me know, because I'm like, I think my wife is like, yeah, I found a way to record it on the thing. And I'm like, bet, like, let me
Yeah.
know, because I don't be watching TV. Like, I see myself in press, and it's weird because like I'll be like looking up something else, and then like something will
Mhm.
pop up, and I'm like, what is this? When was I in this? What paper is this? Like I was looking at one, and I was like in like a in like the what was it, Sri Lankan Times, and I was like, they talk about me in Sri Lanka.
That's crazy.
Like for what? What did I even do? you
Uh,
know, but
International Mac.
sometimes it's just a matter of saying something at the right time, and it just resonates. And for a while, I had that juice. I was hitting it at the right times, and you know
Mhm.
that was cool. But like it never, the whole thing for me was like I'm not like a generator.
Mhm.
I definitely have to sit here and do the work.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing, is doing the work, and connecting with people and getting to know people, and actually, just putting your money where your mouth is.
Yep. That's real. That's real. Well, let me wrap this up, bro. I wrap up every interview with the Fab Five. So five questions that I ask everyone.
Yeah,
All right? So question number one: when you were a kid, what was the first thing you wanted to be in life?
I always wanted to be a doctor.
Mm.
I was going to be a doctor. I didn't get there. I went to college for pre-med biochemistry, but it was tough, and I ended up dropping out of school and becoming a system analyst. So that's what I
How
did.
how much of that was attributed to watching the Cosby Show?
Probably none.
Okay.
Um, I just I was actually really into like insects and like
Okay.
diseases and like epidemiology when I was like 10 or 12 years old. I used to read all these books about like Jonas Salk and what's his name that did the heart, the blood transfusion. Can't think of his name off the top of my head, but the black fella. But it was just, yeah. I
Mm.
thought it was like an admirable thing to do. My mom was always into health stuff. She actually is like a doula and does like like reproductive health stuff and like women's health stuff.
Yeah,
So she's always been into that, and I just wanted to be a doctor.
that's dope. That's dope. Question number two: when you feel overwhelmed, how do you de-stress?
Man, it's basketball in the garden. Depends
Mm.
on how my knees feel. Depends on how my knees feel. Basketball, if I have like a lot of like aggression I need to take out, like basketball is great. I can go out and yell and jump and do all kind of wild stuff and push people in the post or whatever.
Word.
But if I just need like some space and some time, like anxiety, whatever, it's really the garden. The garden's the best place. I can sit out there and just water and plant and love on leaves.
That's dope. That's dope. Now, when you hoop and you trying to stay in the gym, or you going to the park, you going to urban park and busting up these kids.
I've been in the parks busting off these kids
Yeah.
all spring.
Okay.
Before the pandemic, I was at a 24 busting off these old dudes. So
Yeah.
it's whatever. The kids are a lot faster,
Way faster. They can jump.
way faster.
They can
Man,
hit
they can
in the
jump.
air.
And they
I'm
don't
just
get
like,
tired.
I
They don't
can't.
get
I'm not,
tired.
yeah.
I'm like, let me just play all time point.
3 point
3-point line. Let's go.
Word. If you could choose any one celebrity as your life coach, who would it be and why?
Celebrities. I'm not really a big celebrity fan.
Mhm.
Comes to life coaches, I don't know. Have to be somebody black.
Mhm.
Ah, man, that's a tough one. Celebrity life coach. I think I'd have to take somebody like I would have to have somebody that I don't take almost like too seriously.
Mhm.
That makes sense. Like someone I can be like, that's good advice, but I gotta be careful with you, you
Right.
know. So I'd probably pick somebody wild like Dave Chappelle or Snoop Dogg, like
That's a
or
Dave Chappelle would be the best life coach, bro.
I mean, he probably get me in a lot of trouble, but like at the same time, like I would learn how to let it just like roll off.
Yeah.
That or I would just like get like someone like Bree Newsom, like the lady that climbed that pole in South Carolina and pulled that Confederate flag.
Oh wow.
She's like she's like someone that I follow like ever since then, and like I love everything that she says, and I think she's just like the most intelligent like black woman who just like is like a normal person I've ever seen. But
Yeah.
we're considering someone like her a celebrity. I probably like I'd be like, please be my life coach, even if she wasn't a
Sure.
celebrity. I'd be like, please be my life coach.
Yeah.
But I think that if it wasn't going to be a black man who would just be like, hey, bro, just keep your head up and just have my back regardless, I'd have to have a black woman that had my back and kept me in check.
That's dope. That's dope. If you woke up tomorrow and found out that you won the lottery for $100 million, how would you spend your time and your money from that day forward?
I'm dipping out. I'm going to Panama. Um,
He said, "I'm out of here, bro."
Ghost,
Yeah.
Casper.
Yeah.
I'm going to Panama. I'm taking my family with me. I'm buying a bunch of land and I'm building little houses on it for all the homies who want to come with me. That's
Mm,
what I'm doing. And I'm
mm.
giving a gang of money to all my family that stays because I don't need $100 million for sure. But um, you know, I'm trying to. If that's the case, I'm out. We're building a dynasty somewhere else. We're not going
Tell me why
to.
Panama? Because that was like top of mind. That's beautiful. Why Panama?
Um, I've been looking at Panama for a few years. In the middle of the protest last year, we almost like just to put down on like a bed and breakfast in Panama and just sold the house and moved. We were like, let's just go, man.
Woo.
I have a family in Panama. My mom's dad is a immigrant from Panama. He
Okay.
came over in the 1940s.
Okay.
My dad is actually an immigrant from Cuba. So
Mm,
South America has some, South America, the Caribbean has some value to us, and the cost of living there is just so much lower. You're dealing with a tropical climate. You've got soil that hasn't been destroyed by the things that we do in America, and you can
mm,
grow all kinds of fruits and vegetables. You can get a house out there on like several acres for like 70 grand.
mm.
Um, you know so it's just like, why wouldn't I? Why would I spend all that money trying to make it in America and fighting all this nonsense if I could just leave and have freedoms somewhere else?
Mm. That sounds like a great move, bro.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole earth out here.
Yeah.
People are worried about America. It's like I said before, it's an apartheid state. So
Yeah.
at some point you have to decide, are you going to be here or bounce. you
Yeah.
know and Africa's not a bad option either. Step out there, but like I don't want to jump into some nonsense. I feel like in South America right now, there's some like in Panama especially, there's some places you can just go
Mhm.
and just disappear off the face of the planet. Like I don't need these people and stuff. I can just be on Twitter from like Panama, just like posting pictures of me and eating plums off the tree.
Word.
I'll be chilling. I'm
Yeah.
cool. Who's coming? Who wants to roll? I'm with
Yeah.
it.
Sounds like a beautiful, stress-free life. Like just out there, just
And
living.
like as a black man, like that's what it's really about at this point. Like I've been working on the garden stuff. I'm trying to learn my foods and and learn how to like be an urban farmer and all that. I'm trying to
Mhm.
learn so I can really just get up out of here,
Yeah.
and not again be free
Yeah.
from all these things. So like freedom is like an ongoing journey.
For sure.
That's what I want.
For sure. That's beautiful, bro. Last question. This is something that is pretty heavy, and you wouldn't be able to be around to enjoy it. But um, what message do you want communicated at your eulogy?
I actually think about that a lot.
Mm,
Um, it is a heavy question, right? I think about it a lot. I think at my eulogy, I want people to just know that, like, yeah, I really cared. You know, as much as sometimes I act like I don't care, as much as anything else, like I really care. And that's why I do everything that I do, just because I care. I cry because I care. I get mad because I care. I be happy because I care. You know, I get sad because I care. And that's really what it's about. Like I feel like I really just care about a lot of people. I care about a lot of things. I don't always express it properly. You know, so I just want everyone to know, like, I really just cared. That's what I was here for, and hopefully, like, that like my life expresses that like I really cared. You know, I spent a lot of years trying to be cool and stoic, you know, and be the things, you know, that the white society wants us to be, you know, and not emotional and under control. And you hit a home run and you just say yes sir, and captain, and bust the sky and walk off, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like, you know, I want people to, like, I really cared. Like now that, like, I let like emotion run, you know, a lot more. I let, you know, people in a lot more. You know, I express myself in my honest views a lot more, and that's the big. I think that's the biggest change. Is I stopped pretending that I didn't care about things. I stopped trying to keep people happy, and I just got on. Yo, this is how I feel about things. If you ain't with it, it's cool, bro. You know, no hard feelings, but I got to move on. You know,
Yeah.
so I just want people to know that I feel like I moved on them, or like I, you know, like I went a different direction. Like you know, I still care, bro.
Yeah.
That's why I want people to know, like, I do everything out of like a love for humanity. Like I really care about everybody. You know, it's hard sometimes
Mhm,
caring about people,
mhm.
but I want folks to know that, like, I I I really care about them.
No doubt. And I think, I mean, it's evident, you know, like I said, you know, what I've been saying throughout this whole time is like you've been doing this well before it became popular, it became a trend, and it's not as popular and it's not necessarily trendy, but you're not doing it just because of that for the look. You're doing it for the right reasons because you really care about the community and having the outcomes that we need for true freedom. So like, yeah, bro, salute to you for doing the
Thank
work
you.
and
Thank
being
you.
consistent and not giving up regardless of what people are saying and what people are doing because you got your mission and you sticking to it, bro. So that's very commendable,
I appreciate that, man.
bro. So,
That's the whole goal.
yeah, that's what it is, man. So before we take off, how can people get a hold of you on the socials? You know, drop your handles on there.
Yeah. People can always get a hold of me through my socials. I'm at Max Smith on everything. It can also, you know, reach out on the website, macsmith.com, or on weouthere.net. We have comments and things on those articles as well. And we try and to get back to anything that requires, like, you know, a response. Um, they can find me at the thesis once it opens back up. I'll be there every night, and that's
Sure,
open.
sure.
Um, or they can hit the email at the defund pb at gmail. So
That's a fact.
defund ppb is my
That's
email.
a
So
man.
I love you if you get to, like, Teddy Wheeler and his friends, when we can reach out to you, it's defund ppb. That's my email. So you know what you know
Yo,
when you email me, you know what it is already. There's no question
the
about who
messaging
we
is
got.
so consistent. You when you drop the email, like, bro, this brother is so solid. Like defund PPB at Gmail. Like that's me.
Yeah, so when people are like, "Oh, what is he about?" You know what it's about. There's no
That's
question
it.
about it. Who is Mac? This is what it is. My email is defund ppb. So you know
That's
what the goal is. There's no question about it.
that's a fact. That's a
No
fact.
ambiguity, and it keeps me honest. You know, I can't have that email and then hit somebody and be like, "Well, I want to work on reform." No, I don't. Clearly, my email says defund, so I
No,
got to focus on that. So it keeps me straight. You know.
exactly. Well, Mac, bro, blessings to you, man. Thank you for your time. Appreciate your
Thank you.
insights. And everyone that's listening, I hope you all have been, you know, enlightened, inspired, empowered by the words and the conversations that we had. So once again, this is the Sox and Sandals podcast, where society, culture, history, and religion collide, and we unapologetically discuss our worldviews. Holla at y'all next time. Grace and peace.